Kevin, today we have a wonderful show, a little bit about evangelization and helping one another.
That's right, Jay. We got a couple of great guests. Catholic convert David Gray is going to be here. He's a speaker, he's an author, he's a dad as well. He's going to be talking about his ministry. Also, Father Paul O'Brien's here from St. Patrick Parish in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and they have some great programs there to help out the poor.
And we'll hear a little bit in the news too, won't we?
That's right. That's right.
Always want to hear about that news. All that and much more right now on This Is the Day. Hello, hello, hello. I'm Jay Fadden. Thank you so much for joining us today on This Is the Day. I'm joined by my great friend, Kevin Nelson, but not joined by Father Reed today. He'll be back Friday.
On assignment, I believe, right, Jay?
He is on assignment. You know what? I'm going to tell people where he is.
Go ahead, yeah.
He's down in Georgia with a crew from CatholicTV, and they are actually doing a program with people from Sirius Radio, the Willits, and so we'll be able to see that in the fall.
They have a Catholic program on Sirius Radio, on the Catholic channel, and they are funny.
They're very funny. They're very funny. And actually, our guests on last Friday are also, the Barons are going to be there too.
Yeah, yeah. So this should be interesting. Something that we haven't done before, but it's pretty exciting. It's sort of a Catholic comedy type thing.
Yep. Yeah.
And while they're away, we'll try to keep the comedy flowing here as well.
Well, I think we did. I think we did last week a little bit, but we'll see how we do this week. One thing, though, I think is very important is, you know, we're going to talk to David in a little while and talking about his conversion. And it made me think about our role as Catholics. And one of our roles is to evangelize other people, tell them about our faith, to share our faith. And I'm always excited when somebody comes on This Is the Day to talk about how the Catholic faith touched them so much that they converted to the faith. It's always a beautiful thing.
And it's part of our faith to evangelize, and I know this is something that's come up right now. It's sort of at the forefront with new evangelization taking place and with all the media that is available to us. And we you know, are in that as well and providing many different opportunities to get the gospel message out, you know, whether it be not just television, but the web, social media, all this stuff. So it's very important, and it's very important to be out there where everybody else is to provide that.
Well, you know, I know today is not letter day. I understand that. Okay, or email day, but we got a great email in, and it was from Maryland, and they just wrote about they're a companion caregiver to a Catholic widow who was in her 80s, and it just means so much that they can watch the Rosary, the daily Mass, and This Is the Day. They watch This Is the Day. So I want to say hi to Jennifer and everyone down there, that they watch us over the internet, and that's part of our responsibility. And it's a responsibility. That's to share this wonderful faith that we have. You know what we're going to do now?
Switch gears a little bit?
We're going to switch gears. We're going to switch gears. We're going to move from here. We're going to jump over and go over to here.
Excellent.
And we're going to talk with David Gray, a Catholic author, speaker, and a dad. David, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Jay and Kevin?
It's going great. Where are you right now?
I'm in Xenia, Ohio. It's a little ways east of Dayton, Ohio.
Well, we love Ohio. Hey, tell us about what brought you into the Catholic Church.
I spent my 20s as an agnostic. Really didn't believe that you can prove that God is real. I was also making other stupid decisions. I was an accountant. I was embezzling money from my job. So in 2004, I found myself in a county jail and found out that I was going to go to prison for a while. And I decided to commit suicide, decided to end it all because I didn't believe in God, didn't believe in heaven or hell. So I had lost everything, so there wasn't any point of living. So that night, I decided to die by asphyxiation, commit suicide that way. And about the third turn of the rope, I heard a voice, Steve, Jay, Kevin and Jay. He said, "I love you. I'm here." And as soon as I asked the question in my head, who is that? I just knew, my heart just knew that it was Jesus. And I didn't believe in Jesus before that. I thought he was fiction. I thought he was just made up. But when I heard the voice, I just knew that the same God who I rejected, didn't believe in, had mercy on me when I deserved death. And that as an agnostic, he definitively gave me all the proof I ever needed to know that he was real and that he loved me and he was interested in my life. So that's made all the difference. Christ saving me at my lowest point. So I still did go to prison for a little while, and I was baptized a Protestant in 2005. And after that, I decided to, I realized that I had to join a church. So I said, which church? So I went on a church search for the churches of the Bible. I just believed that if God was powerful enough to keep his one temple and his priesthood together as one in the old covenant, I figured God was probably powerful enough to keep his one church together in the new covenant. So I went for a church, the search for the churches of the Bible, and I found the Catholic Church eventually. And so I was confirmed into the Catholic Church on August 8th, 2006, taking St. Joseph as my patron saint.
What a powerful story. Now, I know you're a business person, you specialize in fraud protection, but I wanted to ask you about how that sort of intersects with your spiritual life, especially with the history that you've had and how you've moved through that.
It's my faith that drives me to that, because I understand the wrong that I did. And just as St. Paul, as he persecuted Christians, he turned it around and started evangelizing the Christians. And so because there were fundamental reasons why I was able to embezzle money for so long without anyone noticing, I've used that insight that I have, how to break systems to help people figure out how to fix their system. So what I did at my company doesn't happen to them.
Well, you're dad with 3 kids. How do you find time to grow and engage in your faith? Because it's always a juggling act.
Yeah, it is. The main thing I do is try to go to Mass daily, as often as I can. And what helps me engage in my faith is teaching the faith, whether it's through writing books or articles, my blog, or a little internet radio show that I have. Just sharing the faith helps strengthen me in my faith. And engaging my daughters in the faith as well, giving to them what wasn't given to me as a child. That helps me as well.
You mentioned, Dave, you're a speaker, you're an author as well, you have a blog, and you just mentioned that radio broadcast. How can people learn more about all the work that you do?
Yeah, you can find me online at davidlgray.info. That's David L. Gray with an A.info. Yeah, and there you could read all my articles, my blogs, read excerpts from my books, and yeah.
Well, Dave, we're very fortunate to have you with us and that you're part of this wonderful family that we call the Catholic Church. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us today.
And thanks for having me. God bless.
We said Father Reed isn't here, but in a sense he is, because on the Viaggio a Roma, he's the guy that we hear and who gives us a little tour. So he's going to give us a tour right now. Let's take a look.
Back in Rome, everyone, I'm Father Reed. Ciao, amici. I'm standing here in the middle of one of the most fascinating neighborhoods of Rome, Trastevere. The octagonal fountain right here in the center of the piazza is an ancient Roman original that was restored and embellished in the 17th century by Carlo Fontana. In the evenings, and sometimes even in the afternoons, this fountain is a really popular gathering spot for locals and tourists alike. But the most striking sight here, in this busy square lined with restaurants and pricey bars, is actually the church behind me, the Church of Santa Maria in Trastevere. Said to be the oldest church in Rome dedicated to the Virgin Mary, Santa Maria in Trastevere, may have originally been founded as early as the 3rd century by Pope Calixtus, but it was probably built around 350 AD under Pope Julius I. It was partially destroyed by fire during the sack of Rome in 410, and then it was repaired and rededicated to the Virgin Mary by Pope Celestine sometime around the year 430. After a number of restorations, the church was totally rebuilt in the 12th century by Pope Innocent. And when he did that, he used materials from the ancient Baths of Caracalla. Now, most of the present building dates from this era, with the portico and some of the other remodeling coming from the 19th century. Now, like the fountain here in the square, the facade was restored by Carlo Fontana in the 17th century, but those faded mosaics we see actually date from the 12th of the 13th centuries. Inside the church are 22 granite columns taken from the ruins of ancient Roman buildings, and a cosmati column just to the right of the altar marks the spot of the miraculous flow of oil which occurred in 38 BC and which was interpreted by some who lived in this neighborhood as a sign of the coming of the Messiah. A truly fascinating basilica, an intriguing neighborhood. Santa Maria in Trastevere. For now, ciao amici, ci vediamo presto.
Even while Father Reed is away, he gets onto the program one way or another. Kevin, it just makes sense, doesn't it?
It sure does, Jay.
It just feels like home. It feels like home when he's there. Kevin, what's going on around the world in the Catholic faith?
All right, Jay, and hello, everyone. It is time to take a look at the news, and we begin from the Vatican. During his Sunday Angelus address this week, Pope Benedict XVI said the Eucharist is the heart of the church life and an antidote to the increasingly individualistic global culture. During the Feast of Corpus Christi, the Pope said the Eucharist is like the pulsing heart that gives life and meaning to everything the Church does. Rome Reports takes us to the Vatican with more on the Pope's address.
While praying the Angelus in St. Peter's Square, Benedict XVI focused on what he called the logic of communion. The Pope noted that when confronting an increasingly individualistic culture, the Eucharist plays an important role in the Western society and the entire globalized world.
L'Eucaristia costituisce una sorta di antidoto che opera nelle menti e nei cuori dei credenti e continuamente semina in essi la logica della comunione, del servizio, della condivisione, insomma la logica del Vangelo.
Benedict XVI spoke about the Eucharist on the same day that the Feast of the Eucharist is celebrated in many countries throughout the world. The Pope also highlighted how the Eucharisty serves to unify people with God and with the entire world.
Lo Spirito Santo che trasforma il pane e il vino nel corpo e sangue di Cristo, trasforma anche quanti lo ricevono con fede in membra del corpo di Cristo, così che la Chiesa è realmente sacramento di unità degli uomini con Dio e tra di loro.
Benedict XVI recognized the various blesseds being declared that day, one of which was Father Clemente Bissara, whom the Pope said heroically served as a missionary in Myanmar. Before ending the Angelus, the Pope saluted the 30,000 pilgrims who gathered in St. Peter's Square on a hot summer day in Rome.
Looking now at news from around the country, on Friday, the New York Senate passed legislation allowing same-sex marriage in the state, and the Catholic bishops of New York have released a statement saying both marriage and family will be undermined by the bill's passage. In the statement, the heads of the New York's 8 Catholic dioceses said they were deeply disappointed and troubled at approval of the bill. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, a Democrat and a Catholic, signed it into law Friday night. It will take effect in late July. New York is the 6th state to permit same-sex marriage, joining Connecticut, Iowa, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont, as well as the District of Columbia. A last-minute amendment to the legislation exempts any clergy members who declines to perform same-sex weddings and protects any employee being managed, directed, or supervised by or in conjunction with a religious corporation, benevolent order, or a not-for-profit corporation. We go back now to the Vatican, where a couple of noteworthy events happened. The first is the announcement by the Vatican Communications Office that Pope Benedict is officially launching the aggregator of news content from the Vatican's newspaper, radio, television, and online outlets. And the second event is that during a meeting with Cardinal Angelo Amato, prefect of the Congregation for Saints' Causes, Pope Benedict XVI advanced the sainthood causes of 27 candidates. Catholic News Service's Carol Glatz has all the details on these two stories.
The Vatican gave a preview of a new news site that it will launch on Wednesday, the feast of Saints Peter and Paul and the 60th anniversary of Pope Benedict's ordination to the priesthood. www.news.va will be a multimedia aggregator, streaming in news, audio, and video from all of the Vatican's different official news sources, such as Vatican Radio, L'Osservatore Romano newspaper, Vatican Television, Vatican Information Service, the Vatican Press Hall, and Fides, the Vatican's missionary news agency. Archbishop Claudio Celi, head of the Vatican's Council for Social Communications, told journalists that Pope Benedict will personally launch the site tomorrow evening. The Pope will make the site go live with the tap of his finger on an electronic tablet. He'll also have a chance to surf the site and see its new features, which include letting visitors share content via email, Twitter, and Facebook. In other news, the Pope today advanced the sainthood causes of 27 candidates, including 14 martyrs from the Spanish Civil War and an Austrian priest who was killed in a Nazi death camp. Pope Benedict recognized the miracles needed to clear the way for the beatification of 4 candidates, including Hildegard Bergen, a Jewish mother who converted to Catholicism and founded Caritas Socialis, a religious congregation that serves the poor. And the Pope authorized the publication of decrees recognizing that 8 other candidates for sainthood heroically lived the Christian virtues.
And finally in the news, newspapers aren't dead yet. During the panel discussion at the 2011 Catholic Media Convention, Pittsburgh Bishop David Zubik said Catholic newspapers and magazines continue to be the best way to reach people in the pews. Catholic newspapers and magazines reach almost 12 million households in the U.S. and Canada. Bishop Zubik said there has been no greater and more consistent success in Catholic communications in the United States than through the use of print. He said that though the church must use every means of social communications, the church must also maintain a vital Catholic print presence. The bishop said the cost of publishing a newspaper remains an obstacle for diocesan publications, but offered several suggestions, such as informing bishops how to operate a paper financially and generating advertising through the parish. He said bishops and publishers must use the newspaper as the chief means to communicate with all the people of the diocese, and that they must support the paper. He says it's critical the diocesan newspaper be integrated into the diocesan structure and urged his fellow bishops to stay involved directly with the newspaper. Calling a Catholic newspaper a necessity, Bishop Zubik said a paper remains the best vehicle for adult faith formation. Well, that is all the information we have for you on this Tuesday, June 28th. We're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to be back in just a moment with more of This Is the Day.
No way. Hi. Hi. Shine, come on and let it shine. Light me up, make me feel alive. Hi. She actually said hi to you. Shine on me today.
Joining us now is a good friend of Catholic TV who I have known for a few years. We'll just say a few years. How's that? Father Paul O'Brien of St. Patrick's Parish, which is in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And we are surrounded We are surrounded by things here on the set, and I always like that. Tell us about Labels Are for Jars and how it helps support so many different things.
One of the biggest things we do in our parish is feed people who are hungry. In
Yes.
Lawrence, 75% of our kids at any given moment are at risk for hunger, and who knows how many adults. So our parish operates a meal center called the Cor Unum Meal Center, at which we serve breakfast and dinner every day, 365 days a year. And we now serve more than 200,000 meals a year, so hundreds and hundreds of people every day. The most nutritious restaurant quality food in a very beautiful setting. You've been there.
Yes.
Labels Are for
Gorgeous.
Jars is a nonprofit that raises money to support Cor Unum. We feed people these very nutritious meals at a real cost of only $1 a meal. So we communicate through Labels Are for Jars in not just New England, but around the country. If you want to do something about hunger in this country, every dollar you give us will provide a full nutritious meal to a person through Cor Unum. So Labels Are for Jars is the way that we have managed to communicate that message to large numbers of people, and large numbers of people send us the resources to make Cor Unum work.
It's amazing to me to think when you say 75%, and isn't it our role as Catholics to help one another, and isn't that exactly what you're doing up in Lawrence?
Right. We started Cor Unum and Labels Are for Jars with a basic understanding of Matthew 25, that when we're judged, the first question is, did you feed me when I was hungry or not? Did you give me drink when I was thirsty or not? So we figure if we start with that and move on to the stranger and the prison and the nakedness, we're living the gospel very directly. I don't know how you could be a disciple of Jesus, know that there are people hungry in your community and not get at that. And actually, hunger, of all the issues that we've got, is one of the simplest ones to solve. Very complicated to deal with poor education, for example, in my community. It's very complicated to deal with the breakdown of the family in my community. Hunger can be solved in a minute if I get the food for the person who's hungry and the person eats it. So that's, for all of our limitations, we do a very good job at feeding people who are hungry.
You can talk about the need too, Father. And you've been at this for a few years now, and has the need sort of been level, or has it increased, and what are you seeing?
It's increased. We, particularly because of the recession, we have seen each year, we're just coming up to our 5th anniversary this September, so each year the number of people we serve goes up between 10 and 20%. So again, at this point, we'll be somewhere between 200 and 225,000 meals that we'll have served from last September to this September. It would totally make sense. In our community, where the average per capita income is only about $16,000, housing is also very expensive, disproportionately expensive, because it's short. So even if people are doubled up or tripled up in an apartment with their family or friends, most of people's income is going to keeping a roof over their heads. And therefore, they don't have enough money, even if they're working 2 or 3 jobs. Lots of our folks just do not have enough money to buy food or to buy nutritious food. One of the things in Lawrence and across inner city America is when people are hungry, it's not just that they don't get food, it's that what money they have goes to very non-nutritious food. So we have the highest obesity rate and overweight rate among children in the whole state of Massachusetts. 47% of the kids in Lawrence are overweight or obese. So economically poorest, literally the hungriest, and then when they do have access to food, getting the cheapest food, which is the worst for you.
One of the things I love to think about is we do label people. We will see someone, we just saw one of the promos we have here on Catholic TV, of labeling people who we see on the street, labeling everyone we see, and that's not the case. We should not label people because we are all one family here. But you can't pull this off without volunteers.
Right.
How do you do it, and how do people help you?
So we could never afford, if we were paying people to cook and to serve as waiters and waitresses, to serve as bussers, to clean our facility, we could never afford to feed 200,000 people a year. We have actually only one paid employee, the director of the Cor Unum Meal Center, and everybody else is a volunteer. There are a couple hundred people who volunteer on a regular basis, and then there are people who come through with parish groups or business groups, school groups, from all different faith communities. I mean, you certainly can come to volunteer just maybe once a year or once a month. This summer, we're doing a big drive called Summer Service, because we, in the summer, serve the largest number of people because kids are out of school and not getting school food. And we have the fewest number of volunteers because our volunteers are going on vacation, regular summer vacations. So we're really trying to push everybody, including everyone in your audience, to come give it a shot, come serve breakfast with us or serve dinner. You don't have to have any experience with this. You don't have to have even an orientation center. You call the Cor Unum Meal Center or go to our website under the volunteer page, and we hope that hundreds and hundreds of new folks will come and volunteer with us this summer.
And what is the website?
CorUnumMealCenter.org, and then you go to the volunteer page, or you can go to that through labelsarefojars.org. You can get to the Cor Unum website.
And we only have about a minute left, Father. It's not just the volunteers. If someone is out there and they realize that they can help, they can't get there, but they can help, they can send a donation.
Absolutely.
How do they do that?
They can send it directly to Labels Are for Jars, 118 South Broadway, Lawrence, 01843. All of that's on the Labels Are for Jars website, or you can give online, donate online through Labels Are for Jars. So again, Labels Are for Jars is a 100% volunteer operation. Every single dime we receive goes directly to Cor Unum. Every dollar that a person gives provides a full meal at Cor Unum. You can't, I think, tough to beat that for sharing your treasure to make the world a better place.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing the story. And I have to tell you, I've been there. And from my experience, it is well worth sharing whatever you can. And if you know, I know a lot of you are used to sending to Catholic TV, so if you didn't get the email or the address that Father just said, if you send it here and put a note in there saying that you want me to send it up there, or us here at Catholic TV, I will make sure it gets there. Because you know, when you see children who are hungry and you see people who are hungry, all I always do is think of my own family and how I'd feel. So do what you can. Hey, thanks for watching This Is Day. Have a wonderful day, and know that all of you are in our thoughts and in our prayers. Thank you.